When I was 39 years old, I woke up one morning and I jumped out of bed and I went to my piano and I wrote a song called Buffalo Bill in about 45 minutes. And then I went back to my half-asleep husband and I said, I'm going to write an Americana album in 7 days just to see if I can. I'm a songwriter, obviously, and he and I were both musicians. He's a recording engineer. And we've been collaborating on our own kind of duo idea, but we hadn't really settled on anything yet. And then that one morning when I woke up with a song about a rodeo dude from another century in my head, 7 days later, I had an Americana album called Mud Show. And it was good. We recorded it, Dave produced it. Within 2 months, it had made its way to journalists, DJs, chart reporters, and record companies, and then #1 on the Euro Americana chart. Without ever having toured meaningfully, without having any following anywhere at all, I was labeled a folk Americana artist. I was flown across the Atlantic, and I was signed to a Northern European record company. It was incredible, and it all happened so fast. And by all accounts, an amazing success story. I didn't even start my musical career until I was 39. And Mud Show, my 7-day exercise, my musical challenge, was hailed as a small miracle by Rolling Stone Germany. The reviews were amazing and baffling. Because I did not set out to do that. I set out to have some fun, writing some songs in a genre, because I love writing. I love being in the zone of writing, and I gave myself 7 days to be there, and it was maybe the best week of my life. To be acknowledged as a good songwriter on a large scale was one of the most affirming things that's ever happened to me. It was like I solidified out of thin air. Like fate had finally stepped in. Because when I was a kid, my musical success was a foregone conclusion. I had a big voice. The first song I recorded was when I was 14. And I was found by an agent at a talent show when I was 16. And then he changed my name to Krista Cole. And I was going to be a world-famous pop star. But that got derailed because when I graduated from high school, I got a crippling stage fright. And I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to be Krista Cole. But it lasted a long time. And so pop stardom was off the table, which is okay. Pop stardom wasn't me. But here I was years and years later, Krista Detour, folk Americana artist, America's best kept secret. Thank you. I mean, I still am. Yeah. But I was doing a European tour with my guitar player husband, and I had made it. Was this authentically me? Not really. But I was the dog that finally caught the car. And I think that you know that the choice was clear. I grabbed onto that folk Americana bumper and I ran along 90 miles an hour, signing autographs and wondering how the cowboy boots got on my feet. But more importantly, how I was going to keep them there. In 2005, when Mud Show was released, I had never heard the term living an authentic life. And if I had, I would have scoffed at it, because back then I didn't have much time for any of that new age self-help hooey. But I'm older now, and I have had a lot of therapy. And there's a sociological term. It's called the looking glass self. And it's the process wherein individuals base their own identity on how they believe other people view them, seeing themselves from the outside in. And that had been me for most of my life. I'm an adoptee from the 60s, a time when records were sealed and you stood no chance of finding out why you were like you were. And more than that, in the 60s, you were encouraged to feel lucky that anybody wanted you at all. And kind people would say, oh, you're so lucky. You were chosen. You're special. But adopted didn't feel special. Adopted felt like a dirty word. It felt like outsider. It felt like shame. And then shame led to depression. And then depression followed me my whole life. I really didn't know who I was at all when I was a kid, and there was no one there to tell me. My parents were unhappily married. They were emotionally inaccessible. And so I went looking on the outside for who I was. I was like that little bird in the Dr. Seuss book, the one who's walking around looking at bulldozers and rocks and saying, "Are you my mother? Are you my mother?" It was lonely. And I was angry. I acted out. I was argumentative. I was bratty. I was mouthy. I was weird. I didn't fit in. And so for most of my life, a kind of a negative, bad kid identity was reflected at me. And there was nothing positive on the inside of me to counter that, except for music. That part of me, everybody liked. Scientific American suggests that the desire for fame is based in human needs, the most common being the need to be valued and seen, or like Gaga, to have the entire world fall in love with you. 5 years in, having released Mud Show, the entire world had not fallen in love with me and my music. I'm not that kind of writer, it turns out. My songs are kind of sad, and there's a lot of words. So I didn't ever really take off or catch fire, because you'd all know who I was. And it was getting harder 5 years in, because I was in my 40s, and I was trying to balance the work of music. Dave and I were on the road almost constantly for 5 years with my growing family. At that point in time, I had 3 daughters, 2 dogs, a bunch of chickens, and a really high-maintenance pig. I lived on a farm when I wasn't on the road, and I wasn't in an upward trajectory. I felt like I was working for nothing after a while, and this red light of failure started flashing in the back of my mind, and then it turned into the whisper that permeated my entire life and was incessant. I could not get rid of it. And rather than stopping and asking myself, is this the road you still want to be on? Is this the thing that is making you happy at this point? I didn't. I kept my head down, and I kept pushing for years and years, hoping that something somewhere would change before I aged out entirely, because I did not want to be perceived as a failure. I didn't prioritize music, my life's work, my heart. I prioritized an inauthentic version of myself, and then touring became the job I had to go to, the job that kept me awake at night because it was so stressful. It was like a matter of survival. And the irony was, because I chose to stay on the road where I might look successful, I kept the love and inspiration away from myself that had gotten me the success to begin with. By investing in looking successful, I kept myself from being successful. Those of us who have put a lot of ourselves into something and been pushing to achieve well past the time that we should know what I'm talking about. There are people that stay in jobs that they hate. Some of you have stayed in jobs that you hate, because 5 years from now it might get better, or you might get a pension or something. Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes are based in this shame of failure, this human tendency. You know, you risk something big, you put a lot of yourself into it, maybe a lot of time and a lot of your money, and then you're seeing a diminishing return on your investments, and every single bone in your body says you are in the wrong place doing the wrong thing. But you still write one more check, because how the hell are you going to explain all those boxes of immortality vitamins stacked up in your garage? And the shame of failure does sell pills, but there's Xanax and the Prozac and their collagen and their pain, lots of pain. So somebody handed me a book called The Big Leap, which is by this kind of crazy genius guy named Gay Hendricks. And it's based on this idea that we all have a zone inside of us. And we're the only people that can see the shimmery edges of it. And he calls it the zone of genius. It's that place where time is fluid, where you lose track of what you're doing. You just love it. Maybe it's painting, or maybe it's cooking, or maybe it's playing the piano, or maybe it's being a nurse and helping people. But there is that place, and we all have it. And most of us will commit to what we're good at, even what we're excellent at. But few of us will commit to that place of daily inspiration. And it's his contention that that is our job as humans. That's what we should all be trying to do, especially at this point in time. But we stay doing what we can do because we're afraid to do what we should do. Because it's hard to recreate yourself, especially in middle age. It's hard to switch course at any age, but you run the risk of your friends and family and people on the outside looking at you like you're crazy, you know? So you spend your life inside, basically running from room to room in rooms full of mirrors, trying to look perfect at every angle. In 2020, when COVID hit and the entire world shut down, so did all of the venues I was performing at. And like a lot of you, I had no more work. But I also had no more internal conflict. And I could sit down and I could listen to my instincts. And when the car stopped, I let go of that bumper and I ran into the woods. Prior to the pandemic, I had been working on this idea. My husband and I had kind of agreed that we had a lot of land and we wanted to share it with people. And I had been hearing this Field of Dreams voice in the back of my head. I don't know if any of you saw that movie, but it's like, if you build it, they will come. And I didn't know why. But it was an instinct, it was a whisper, and I thought, maybe if I follow this inspiration, I'll find my way back to my own. But I had to acknowledge a couple of things. Firstly, that I had been successful in music, before and after Mud Show, because I had been given a lifetime of the gift of expression. I had touched a lot of people. And I had seen the world in a way I never could have. And that gift was priceless. And secondly, I love connecting with audiences. But the way that I connect with them and the setting I'm in is everything. So I'd have to commit to connecting with audiences my way. And thirdly, I'd have to understand that this new dream was going to have to be my identity. It was going to have to be determined only by me. Because the search for outside affirmation is endless. And it is unquenchable. And the looking glass, self, is entirely too small to contain something as big as inspiration. So the looking glass would have to be shattered and swept away. In 2020, Dave and I opened the 100th Hill Artist Residency on the land we're lucky enough to live in southern Indiana. Also, luckily, Dave is an engineer and a builder and kind of a genius, and he can take a couple of pieces of used plywood and some chewing gum and turn them into a tiny house and a stage. So we're musicians. I like to joke that we don't even have a 40.1K, let alone a 401K. So we could do something really big with almost no money. And I wanted to make space for people like McKenya, for people that are coming in to forge ideas and then fail. And then maybe have other people come in and watch them forge ideas and then fail. And then succeed and then fail. Or maybe just absorb some of their juice like a piano-playing vampire. Or maybe just to see it for myself, that success and failure are absolutely required, both of them, for inspired creativity. We need each of them to even understand the other. We have got to fail to get to the big ideas and get to the best of ourselves. At least I had to. I had to fail big to even understand what success means. Our inaugural residency was a group of NYU students, and we quarantined them for 2 months, and they staged 2 theater pieces that were brand new, no one had ever seen. And for a hot minute, we were the only place in the United States that managed to stage live traditional theater. And for that, we were recognized by Broadway World and Forbes. Thank you. Most recently, we had Andre Royo in from The Wire, and he was in a residency, and for that, we were in Washington Post. Is this success? Maybe, but only if I think it is. Because the 100th Hill is an evolving idea. And at any point, I might have to re-envision it because it may become old and obsolete. But I have to stay inspired so that I can do the best for the world that I live in, so that I can do the thing that I'm supposed to do. Currently, people are coming every month or so. They're coming in and they're trying to forge new ideas, and they're trying to imagine what's possible for us humans. I believe that art is the fuel that will get us to the answers that we need at this point in time. We're here on 9/11. Since 2001, the entire world has changed. Something's for the better. A lot of wretched delusions were shattered after coverage of George Floyd's murder. And the course of history was changed, and that cannot be reversed, thankfully. Something's for the worse. The glaciers are melting. Fires are coming more frequently. Water is rising and disappearing at the same time. And global suffering seems unprecedented. But as long as we can, we will have people come to our woods to imagine a future. And for now, for me, this road has turned into a river of beautiful minutes. And I'm inspired again. And I'm writing again. And I'm playing along to Bill Evans on Kinda Blue just to see if I can. I'll leave you with this from the philosopher Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I may be. May you fail so well that you become what you may be. Thank you.